The cry still echoed across the Santa Maria letters land ahead. This time there was no doubt. The dark outline on the horizon, once only a suggestion, now stood clear against the golden rise of dawn. Real, solid, undeniable. The deck, once suffocated by fear, now pulsed with raw emotion. As the sun climbed steadily, it revealed the full beauty of the distant coastline. Tall trees waving gently in the morning breeze, a rugged line of hills rising behind them, a faint stretch of pale sand, flashes of deep green reflecting in the water. Sailors pressed themselves against the railings, desperate to absorb every detail. Some laughed uncontrollably, some wept as though releasing weeks of pain. Others simply stared, awestruck. One young deckhand whispered, "It looks like something from a dream." Columbus stood near the mainmast, gripping the wood as if anchoring himself to reality. This moment was the proof he had risked his life for, and the proof the world would never forget. The celebration exploded on deck. Men knelt, cried, embraced each other. Some kissed the wooden planks beneath their feet. Others shouted prayers of gratitude. A sailor shouted, "I swear I can feel the ground from here." Another, trembling with excitement, "We will return to Spain as legends." But beneath the joy, a quieter emotion lingered. Fear, because the question that now mattered was, what kind of land was this? While the crew celebrated, the three most experienced men aboard remained silent. Martin Alonso Pinzon, staring, relieved but cautious. Juan de la Cosa scanning the coastline with the precision of a master navigator. Christopher Columbus, rigid, intensely focused, unblinking. De la Cosa spoke first. "We must choose the landing carefully. The waters may hide reefs," Pinzon added, "and we do not know who lives on that land." Columbus answered softly, "But we know we have reached it." After the wave of celebration, a heavy calm replaced it. The men realized that the land they had longed for was an unknown world, untouched by Europe. A world with its own inhabitants, its own dangers, its own mysteries. Some sailors murmured, "What if they are warriors? What if they reject us? What if they've been watching since dawn?" The ocean no longer felt like the enemy. Now the land did. As the Santa Maria drifted closer, the details of the island sharpened. Flocks of colorful birds flew above the shoreline. The forest canopy rustled with movement. A warm, earthy scent filled the air. Faint shapes darted between the leaves. For men who had seen only blue for weeks, the vivid colors were overwhelming. One sailor whispered, "I never knew green could look like that." Another added, "It feels like God painted this place." The ocean beneath the ship was no longer deep blue. It had turned lighter, greener, almost transparent. From the rail, sailors could see fish, coral shapes, and shifting currents below. It terrified some. "The bottom is too close. We'll run aground. This is dangerous." Juan de la Cosa lowered the lead line. He checked once, twice, then still safe. "But we cannot go much farther." The ship slowed almost to a crawl. The new world was nearly within reach. Then it happened. A sound drifted over the water. Not a bird call, not wind, not waves. A rhythmic chant, soft, melodic, human. The sailors froze. "Did you hear that? Someone is there. Someone is watching us." The forest remained still, but the sound carried faint but unmistakable. Columbus narrowed his eyes. "We must be cautious." Joy turned into apprehension. Discovery had become encounter. Pinzon retrieved the royal banner of Castile and Aragon from the storage chest. The gold and crimson cloth caught the sunlight, shimmering like fire. The sailors touched it reverently. "We will be the first to place this flag on a new world." Columbus held the banner with both hands. The air around him felt charged with destiny, ambition, and centuries of European hunger for expansion. "Today," he declared, "the world changes." But before they could set foot on land, a real danger emerged. The waters near the shore were too shallow for the Santa Maria letters. De la Cosa spoke firmly. "We cannot risk the ship. We will use the boats." The small wooden boats were lowered into the water. They rocked gently, waiting. This was the final step, the last crossing. Some sailors hesitated before stepping into the boats. So close, yet suddenly terrified. The unknown, now at arm's length, was more frightening than the endless sea. Pinzon addressed them. "Do not let fear steal the moment history will remember." De la Cosa added, "We've crossed the ocean. We can cross this." One by one they took their places. The boats glided toward the island. The water was so clear they could see every fish darting around the oars. The coastline grew larger with every stroke, the colors brighter, the air sweeter, a place untouched, a place alive. This was not just land, it was a world. Then movement. Something shifted in the forest, a silhouette, human-like. Fast oars paused mid-stroke. "Someone's there. I saw it. We are not alone." The vegetation rustled again. Someone or something watched them from the tree line. Columbus gripped the banner tighter. Pinzon tensed. De la Cosa reached for his dagger. The shoreline was right there, within meters. But so was the unknown. The boats continued, slow and silent. The men barely breathed. Shells, branches, and footprints. Yes, footprints were visible on the sand, proof of life. Proof that the island was not empty. The forest waited. The air trembled with anticipation. Between the last stroke of an oar and the first step onto the sand, The fate of the world balanced on a whisper. They were seconds away from making contact, seconds away from entering history, seconds away from changing everything. The boats drifted closer to the shore, their oars slicing through crystal-clear water that shimmered beneath the rising sun. Every movement echoed with anticipation. Every breath carried the weight of what was about to occur. This was the threshold, the line separating the known world from something entirely new, and every man aboard those small wooden boats knew it. From just a few dozen meters away, the coastline revealed more details. Shells scattered like white pearls on the sand, crabs scurrying sideways into the surf, small birds pecking near the tide line, the dense forest standing like a living wall behind it all. The beauty was overwhelming, almost unreal. One sailor murmured, "It looks untouched, like no man has ever walked there." But the footprints in the sand, faint but visible, told another story. Someone had walked there recently, and that turned beauty into tension. The forest no longer felt like scenery. It felt like eyes. Every rustle, every whisper of leaves, every movement of branches seemed purposeful, deliberate. A sailor clenched his jaw and whispered, "They see us," another replied, "but we don't see them." The boat slowed almost to a stop. The shoreline was there, so close the men could smell the soil, the warmth of the sun on the sand, the faint sweetness of unfamiliar flowers carried by the breeze. But the silence from the trees was unsettling. It was a silence that felt tactical. Columbus lifted the royal banner. Its red and gold colors caught the sunlight and blazed in the morning air. The men straightened their backs instinctively. The admiral's voice was steady. "We have crossed the ocean. No fear stands between us and this shore." His tone was calm, but inside even he felt the tremor of uncertainty, because he knew something the crew did not. Contact with unknown peoples was always unpredictable. Friendly or hostile, there was no way to know. Not until they stepped onto the sand. Without warning, something small flew from the edge of the trees. A pebble. It bounced harmlessly into the surf, no more than a few meters from the boats. The sailors tensed instantly, hands gripped oars. Others reached for knives or wooden clubs. Pinzon whispered sharply, "Hold the line. Do not move." The forest rustled again. A shadow shifted. Another pebble fell, this one barely making a splash, not thrown to hit them but to warn them. A message disguised as simplicity. The men looked to Columbus. He didn't blink. He didn't flinch. He raised the banner higher, letting it catch the wind. Then he said, with unwavering tone, "Forward." The boats resumed movement, slow, controlled, steady. No one spoke. No one dared to breathe too loudly. The forest remained silent, watching, waiting. The boats approached the shallowest point. The oarsmen lifted their paddles. The water was now barely waist-deep. Pinzon turned to the men, "Into the water. Stay together." They jumped in. The warm salt water splashed against their legs as they steadied the boats. Sand crunched beneath their feet. The world seemed to pause, and then the first sailor stepped forward. Not Columbus, not Pinzon, not a leader, just a young man whose name history would never record. His foot touched the sand. Then the other. He stood fully on the beach, the first European of the expedition to set foot on this land. The crew behind him froze, as if witnessing something sacred. Columbus watched, eyes shining. "Remember this moment. The world will speak of it for centuries." More men stepped ashore, one by one. The sand felt strange, softer than expected, warmer, more alive. The forest loomed just ahead, its colors vivid under the rising sun. Every sound sharpened, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of unfamiliar birds, the rhythmic crash of waves behind them. The heartbeat of the men, loud enough to hear several, knelt and touched the ground, letting the sand slip between their fingers. One whispered, "I never thought I'd touch land again." Another crossed himself repeatedly. They were mesmerized, but the forest remained motionless, still watching. Then a voice, soft, distant, unmistakably human. It echoed between the trees, a rising tone, rhythmic, almost like a chant. All the sailors froze. Pinzon inhaled sharply. Delacosa drew his dagger, not in threat but precaution. Columbus stepped forward, taking 3 slow steps into the sand. He spoke aloud, "We come in peace." The forest answered with silence, and then a single figure emerged, a slender silhouette, dark-skinned, bare-chested, decorated with feathers and beads. The first inhabitant of the new land to reveal himself. He stood just outside the treeline.com, observing the strangers. No weapon in hand, no fear in his posture, only curiosity and authority. The sailors tensed. Columbus felt his pulse pound against his ribs. The figure lifted a hand, slowly, deliberately, a gesture neither welcoming nor hostile, just acknowledgement. The two worlds, separated for thousands of years, finally saw each other face to face, and in that suspended moment between greeting and uncertainty, the course of human history shifted forever.